You ever feel just exhausted? I mean, the kind of bone deep soul fatigue that doesn't go away with a nap or a day off. I've been there, trying to be everything to everyone, walking on eggshells, carefully measuring every word, hoping not to offend, trying to keep friends happy, meet family expectations, maintain ministry appearances, and let's be honest, trying not to get canceled in the process. And all the while, there's this internal pressure to be a good Christian, to smile, to be nice, to show up. It's not just exhausting, it's soul crushing. But what if that exhaustion isn't just stress? What if it's a spiritual warning light on the dashboard of your life? What if God is using your burnout to signal that something is out of alignment? In John 15, Jesus says something that should snap every people pleaser awake. If the world hates you, you know that it has hated me before it hated you. He doesn't say you might be disliked. He says you will. The real Jesus isn't interested in making you popular. He's interested in making you holy. So today, we're going to tear down the idol of people pleasing. We're going to look at why it's not just annoying, it's dangerous. Then we'll walk through 3 biblical practical disciplines that will help you step off the treadmill, silence the crowd, and live for an audience of 1. So, before we get practical, we've got to get spiritual. Why is people pleasing such a deep, dangerous issue? Because at its core, it's not a personality flaw. It's a worship issue. It's idolatry. The Apostle Paul doesn't sugarcoat it. He says, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." Galatians 1:10. See, there's no wiggle room here. You can't serve 2 masters. Jesus said, no one can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. Matthew 6:24. When people's opinions drive our decisions, they own you. And what they demand will always change, but God doesn't. Trying to keep people happy eventually leads to you to compromise. So let's look at Pilate. So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, releasing for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. That's the spiritual power of people pleasing. It doesn't just make you tired, it makes you complicit in things you never believed in. Another example from John, nevertheless, many even of the authorities believed in him, but for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so that they would not be put out of the synagogue. For they love the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God. You see, that fear of being kicked out silenced their faith, and it still does today. We elevate the opinions of people we're trying to impress above the glory of the one who formed us in the womb. Now, does this mean we become unkind or rebellious toward others? No. Paul also said, let each of us please his neighbor for his good to build him up. Romans 15:2. The difference is in the why. Are we pleasing people to build them up for God's glory, or to protect our image, avoid discomfort, or gain applause? See, that's the dividing line between ministry and idolatry.